Fox News alert, the leader of Boko Haram reportedly pledging allegiance to ISIS. U.S. intelligence officials are assessing that pledge, looking at the impact that it could have on these two extremist groups. Here now is Dr. Jasser, founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, author of A Battle for the Soul of Islam, an American Muslim's patriot's faith to save his faith, and former U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander as well. Doctor, very good to have you with us here this morning. Good morning.
It's great to be with you, Martha. Thank you.
So, most Americans became more familiar with Boko Haram when they kidnapped hundreds of schoolgirls. Those girls were never returned, despite, all of the hashtag efforts to bring back our girls. And now we learned of a horrific attack over the weekend in which 50 people were killed, 150 likely were wounded, that was carried out by female suicide bombers. A link?
And, bottom line is this is a separatist, militant Islamist movement in Nigeria. President Goodluck Jonathan moved the elections because of the threat. We have always been afraid that the acts of terror increase as the elections in Nigeria get closer. And sure enough, not only did they do these attacks on Saturday, but they followed it on social media with an allegiance to sort of the bigger jihadist movement, the global jihadist movement, which will always try to coalesce to separate themselves from the alliances with the West. As they named themselves, Western education is a sin, and it was natural for them to ally themselves now. And by the way, I listened to the tape, the audio of Shakai saying his bayat, or an Islamism, which is basically an allegiance. And it's classic sermon-type Arabic. Though it's not his first language, he was clearly showing an allegiance theologically to ISIS and coming together of this global supremacist movement. So a couple things. They want to deviate away from Nigeria. They want to coalesce and get more recruits. They want to try to get more arms, possibly from Libya, Ansar al-Sharia and others in the north. And they want to basically join the brand of ISIS, which is recruiting more people.
All right. So a couple of points here. Chad and Niger are both launching military offensives against Boko Haram, which is a good sign, obviously, and hopefully they'll be successful. But what does Boko Haram gain by joining forces with ISIS and vice versa?
Well, it basically gains a couple things. Right now ISIS has the greatest brand globally in attracting these militants. So remember, there's actually for the first time a son of a former Chief Justice in Nigeria, Mohammed Awais, went to fight with ISIS with his family a few weeks ago. So they're trying to say, hold on, we're part of this movement. Don't leave Nigeria, stay here and fight with us. Secondly, I think they need arms. They need sort of a fuel. And third is to put fear into the populations of regular Nigerians who will see, oh my gosh, this is not just our local radical Muslims, this is a global movement. So that's one of the main things that's happened immediately, is the huge installation of fear among Muslims and Christians in Nigeria.
All right, so what do you think about the front page report in the Washington Post this morning that says that ISIS is beginning to fray from within, and that they have numbers of militants among them who are fleeing? They found a number of people gunned down, and they suspect that they were actually trying to flee this group. Is that a good sign? Is it something that we should feel is real progress?
Well, short term, absolutely. They're going to fray as we, have launched air operations against them in Syria and Iraq, and you see the Peshmerga and others who need to be armed better. But ultimately, we are beginning to make them spread. But this is like a virus that will spread and coalesce in other areas. And the jihadist virus movement globally, it cannot be quarantined. It can't be beat militarily. We have no ideological movement against political Islam, and the fuel that drives these movements to coalesce naturally. It's sort of like in the Cold War, if we were trying to fight the growth together of communist groups into the Soviet umbrella, and yet we said, well, one at a time we can do it. No, you have to beat the communist ideology. Here it's Islamism, jihadism, and we have no movement counter-ideology against the general idea of all Islamic states. And Boko Haram and ISIS coming together is basically like the OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, on steroids in a more militant component.
Yeah, very interesting and frightening. Thank you very much, Dr. Jasser. Always good to have you with us.
Thanks, Martha. Appreciate it.